Maybe I should here again also go back a little bit in time and say a few words on my connection, my personal connection to Switzerland. It is a connection that actually has a bit of a European story behind it. It started in Portugal. I was one of the first students who was able to take advantage of the Erasmus exchange program. I would say one of the most successful EU funded programs ever created. I fell in love with Portugal, and this is also the reason that when I finished then my degree in Belgium, I decided to return to Portugal. My degree had been a degree in Germanic philology, and now I had been able to add this Portuguese connection to it, and somehow I wanted to do something with both. Very interestingly, one of the professors at the Department of German at the University of Porto, where I was studying, he had been formerly a student in Switzerland, in Fribourg, and he had connection to a number of Swiss authors, including a German-Swiss author from Zurich named Hugo Lötscher. And Hugo Lötscher was interesting for me because he, as a German-Swiss author, had lived in Portugal and had written about Portugal, had written also about Portuguese history, also the colonial history, the connections to Brazil, to Portuguese-speaking Africa, and I became fascinated with his work. I wrote my master's and later also my PhD dissertation on his work, and then also got in touch with Hugo Lötscher personally. That brought me to Switzerland, and I of course became very interested in learning more about Swiss identity and Swiss history and what it means to be Swiss. And coming of course from a multilingual country like Belgium, it was interesting also to compare and to see the differences. Because when you live and you grow up in Belgium, you are in a way much more strongly connected to the language area where you grew up. In a way, one could say that contemporary Belgium is almost like two nations living together in one country, right? And I did see the difference with Switzerland. In the sense, of course, that there's obviously differences between German-speaking Switzerland and French-speaking Switzerland and Italian-speaking and Rätoromance-speaking Switzerland. But at the same time, you do have this feeling of a Swiss nation. You do see the Swiss flag everywhere in the country, which is very different, I would say, from Belgium. This idea of unity is much less present in the case of Belgium, which has to do with history, but it has also to do with the political system. I must say that I'm a big fan of the Swiss political system. I think when it comes to questions of legitimizing political power, the fact that you build a government where all the main parties are represented and are forced to somehow, find an agreement, and also the importance of the referendum does, make this Swiss citizenship and Swiss identity, I think, quite a unique identity, and again, being able to compare it to Belgium was something quite interesting for me to do. I also was able to organize a couple of events on the Berkeley campus where we were able to invite some Swiss intellectuals. I'm thinking of Roger Devec, who came once to campus, Iso Kamartin, who came, who's an expert on Rätoromanisch, and who told us about minority languages in the case of Switzerland, and what does it mean to be Swiss and to be a native speaker of Romance, so all of that, I think, was not only interesting to me, but also to American students, to find out how does Switzerland deal with this challenge of having multiple languages in one nation, because it is a question that is, of course, also a very contemporary and challenging question in a more broader sense, both in the European Union and in the United States, in the sense that we increasingly live in a world where people with different cultural backgrounds, different native languages share the same space, right? So how do you build a political system that responds to those challenges? And here I think many of the ideas and concepts that have over time developed in Switzerland could be inspiring and could maybe provide some of the answers that all of us are struggling with at the time, not only within Switzerland, but also in a broader sense in the United States and in Europe as a whole.